Hello, my name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of an organization called Million Kids, millionkids.org. Our organization is all about keeping kids safe from predators. Been doing it for like 15 years now, and have trained well over 750,000 people. We're known for our research and staying up to date on the latest happenings and that might be affecting the safety of our kids. And what I want to talk to you about today is near and dear to my heart. I have literally well over 100 hours just preparing for these particular podcasts. This is the second in a series of 3 podcasts on character AI and other chatbots. We're not saying just character AI, although they seem to be the leader in the business. I have a lot of concerns, and I'm going to just kind of lay them out. I'm not here to say thou shalt not. What I'm here for is especially teachers, parents, grandparents, pastors, youth group leaders, sports coaches, anybody that works with teenagers needs to hear this information. So, this whole AI thing, it has a lot of good uses, I think. I mean, I've tried it out with ChatGPT, and anytime I'm getting ready to make a speech or a presentation, I'll run it through ChatGPT, and it is the way of the future for us to get information. However, I will be the first to confess that I knew little about character AI until we had a young man down in Florida take his own life, and now we've had another one out here on the West Coast. And I began to do this big research and asked my team to do the research. Now, one of the things I'm going to start out today with is that there is a hearing, a landmark bill going through Sacramento to regulate chatbots and put in safeguards. Now, I will tell you that I'm very happy to see that. I'll also tell you that what I'm looking at and knowing what I now know after literally 100 hours of doing research projects on the subject is this is not enough. It's a feeble attempt at it. It's a start, so better than nothing. But I do want to commend Senator Steve Padilla from San Diego. I don't know him. I have heard of him, but at least somebody is trying to do something. Now, I'm going to tell you, the further this goes and the more you learn, the more you'll realize just how inadequate the whole thing is. First, before we go into this bill, by the way, that bill is called 243, so to be AB. It's an assembly bill. It's a Senate bill, SB 243. And you can look that up, but I'll come back to that. But first, let's talk about just how big character AI is. Now, this really started for me because a group called the HEAT Initiative, I don't know who they are, but they did a research project, and I'm very, very proud of them for doing that so that we can have all this brought to our attention. So let me give you some statistics so that you can see how serious this is. In 2025, the revenue for character AI, it's been on a couple of years now, hit $50 million. It is predicted to be over $250 million by 2032. The valuation for this organization is over $1 billion. Google invested $2.7 billion in it, so you know that it's here to stay. And you know it must be successful if they're putting that kind of money into it. Right now, they have over 28 million monthly active users. And I find that interesting. They're using over 18 million unique chatbots that are created. We'll talk about how all this works in a minute. What I want you to see is this has been around a bit, And our kids are not just early adopters, they're going full bore on this deal. And it isn't going to slow down. So it's time for you and me, mom and dad, teachers, pastors, to get involved and find out what this is all about. Character AI has been downloaded over 10 million times worldwide. That means just the installation of the app. And they receive over 208 million visits per month. So it's not a small deal. And yet I am really fascinated by the fact that it took me a long time to get involved and understand it. And I bet you that the bulk of the adults in your life do not know about it either. And this is why I think this is so important. Character AI users created more than 4 million unique AI personalities. So what am I saying? You have developers, computer developers, program developers that are creating particular characters. But you also have individuals that have created over 4 million unique kinds of characters. And what happens here is that the new and unique ones that are being created are now 8-to-1. In other words, the developers created some, and now you're getting these users that are creating it. The gender usage is about equal, 51% to 49, 51 male, 49 female. This is the concern for me as we go along here. The average time now in a session, and I'm getting two different statistics here depending on who did the research. One says it's about 45 minutes. The other one says it's 2 hours, 120 minutes, okay? Now that's a long time to spend with each other. And by the end of this podcast, we will have spent 30 minutes. So it's 4 times the amount of time you and I are spending together. What this tells you is that it's a significantly high level of engagement. And this is very often our kids, or at least people under 30, but you can use it up to the age or down to the age of 13. So as we look at this, 83% of this is taking place on a mobile device. That suggests to me the parents probably aren't aware how much time a kid is spending with any particular character that they're interacting with. Another statistic that I think is very, very important is that 65% of Gen Z users report having an emotional connection with an AI character. Okay, let me stop a minute. So I tried out ChatGPT, and I still use it regularly. But one morning I was working on a project. It happened to be Easter Sunday before church, and I was working on something that I had to deliver. So I wrote the presentation, and then I sent it through ChatGPT, and I'm talking to this. In this case, it happened to be a male voice. And I said to the person, it's Easter morning and I really got to go. Thanks for your help and like that, but I got to go to church. And without a blink, the bot says to me, "It's okay, Opal. I'll be right back when you get back." And I thought to myself, holy cow, I just apologized to a bot. I'm no different than everybody else out there. You start talking to this thing like it's real. I have a cousin, an elderly cousin, that her roomie is Alexa, that little thing you get, I think, from Amazon. She tells her everything, and that's her roomie, and she chats back and forth with her. Well, in some ways, for an elderly person, it's companionship, except they're selling everything she says. It's probably boring in her part, who knows, But it is easy, even as an adult, to feel like you've developed a bond with this thing. And I say to myself, if you're a 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old hormonal teenager with lots of issues and you're sure that nobody understands you, this could be a real concern, depending on how the bot reacts. So this thing has turned out to be absolutely huge. I'm going to jump ahead from my research here. One of the things that was fascinating to me, I probably read 70 or 80 different articles on this before I started to put this together with you. And one of the things I read was a researcher that was talking to young people, to teenagers, 13 to 18 years old, and asking them why they use that particular character AI, and if they have a particular character, and why they do it, and why do they think they do it as often as they do. So here's some quotes I want to give you. I like role play, but I'm socially anxious. So finding a person who I can role play with, online or in person, is really hard. AI skips the process of finding a person and lets me get to the part that I actually enjoy. So this person seems a little more mature to me, kind of understanding what's happening and like that. But the next person says, I have severe social anxiety and I use the app to feel connected to people. You're not connecting to people, you're talking to a bot, okay? Anyway, role play because I'm lonely, and there are other reasons as to why. Because I'm lonely and I just want to chat with someone. Plus fictional characters are cool. I can't even talk here. Fictional characters are cooler than real people, aren't they? So what I'm sharing with you is these people are using the chat bot as a way to exchange ideas and express their emotions. Except that's the person on the other end is not a person. It is a computer who is recording everything and then creating new future replies. Here's another one. For me personally, it's 100% just a distraction. I used to be super addicted to it and have been getting better about not being on the app as much anymore. But it started as a curiosity, and then I used it as a distraction from everything. It made my busy thoughts stop for a moment and focus on something else for once. But the price for that fact, I'd spend 13 to 16 hours a day on the app. I'm much better now. Obviously, they don't go to school or have a job. Here's another one. I'm socially anxious and people really don't like being around me. Maybe you ought to work on that, okay? So at least I can spend a few hours interacting and role-playing. My point here is that people get emotional about this. And one of the great challenges is how do we teach our children to be on here? And I will tell you that our team is really, really grappling with this because our team is a team of researchers and we comb through all these cases and we look for ways to say never again. You know, for instance, like in financial sextortion, I can teach kids don't send a nude. The minute you get a nude online, you are compromised. And you have no control over that nudist, where it's going to go. And you can have a concrete conversation. But if a young person is addicted, which some of them are getting to be, as you can tell, to character AI, how do we begin to sit down with them and help them so that they can use a particular technology safely if they can? So this thing is absolutely massive before any of the real parents understand what's going on. So 83% of this is taking place on a mobile phone. That's scary to me because there's very little interaction with a parent on it. Character AI conversations generate about 10 billion messages monthly. Can you believe that? It's unbelievable. 10 billion messages monthly coming from conversations with 28 million users and over 18 million unique chatbot users. So what is fascinating is, number one, the amount of time a person is spending on character AI versus ChatGPT or one of the others. According to the bigdata.com site, what's the bigdata.com website? ChatGPT, 7 minutes. Character AI is 2 hours, 120 minutes. So what's that tell you? If you go on ChatGPT or any of the other chatbots, you're apparently looking for something kind of specific, as a specific answer of some sort. But if you're going into character AI, and there are many, many different characters, we're going to get into that over the rest of the show and the next one. If you get into that, you're actually kind of starting to see yourself forming a relationship with that character. And if it's a healthy character, maybe that's okay. I looked up the good uses for this because I don't want to just lay out, and nothing is ever really just all bad or all good, although I got my own opinion on this one. For those of you that don't listen to me regularly, I usually say technology isn't particularly good or bad. It's like a car. You can take a car off to a university and get a degree, or you can take a car to a strip club and get yourself in trouble. It is not the car, it's how you prepare the driver of the car. So there were some good uses that we saw on this. Creating videos and using your own characters, and creating animated videos. That's kind of fun there. Practice a new language. If you're going to a foreign country, that would be a good use of character AI. Practice a job interview. I'm not sure how effective that'll be, but that's what they're saying. Write a story and get ideas on that. Get a book recommendation. That was one of the ChatGPT recommendations, and I'm saying, wait a minute, nobody's reading books anymore. They're all on YouTube or telling their story or talking through an animated character or something. But okay, it sounded good. Brainstorm some ideas. Well, that's what I use it for. Look up historical facts quickly. I just did that on a project that I was doing for my church. Gym assistants, they have some chat GPTs and like that do exercises. Now, whether you have any exercise character under character AI, it kind of suggested that you did. I don't know if you do or you don't, but I suppose that would be a good use of them. Or a life coach if you want to develop discipline and you can check in with it each day. Keep in mind, nothing you ever say to a chatbot is ever going to be private, so be very careful. So as I began to look at this, I'm trying to find out, is this a good thing for our kids or is it a bad thing? Or under what circumstances because if you have to be 13 to use it, but how do we prepare a 13-year-old to use it so they don't fall in love or start telling him their secrets or have a sexual interaction? Now, you're not really talking to another human being. It isn't like on video gaming, which is dangerous as heck. If you start giving away your personal secrets on video gaming, it'd be very quick and easy for some pedophile to begin to come in and try to pick up our kids. So as we look at this, how do we teach kids and how do we counsel parents on how to use this? Because I'm going to be willing to bet you at least 1 out of 2 people who are listening to this have never used character AI. And that's a problem because our children are on it. 71% of our children have tried it out. 50% use it regularly. So I'm going to tell you that especially under character AI, I have a lot of reservations. If I had a young person in my life, which right now they've all grown up, and they got their own problems and their own teenagers that they're dealing with. But if I had a young person in my life, I would say that there are plenty of good things on the internet without wasting your time on character AI. what good is it to live vicariously under someone else? The other thing I would say is that I have researched many of the characters under character AI. And these are not people that I want my kids to role model after. That is one of the big dangers that I see right there. I'm going to pull up a couple of them for you. One of them is Alice the Bully. She's got 42,000 followers and she had 311 million interactions. She starts out the relationship by saying, "Get out of my way, you dweeb." So you want your child to learn to communicate with that line of thinking. Here's Sukuna as a very popular one, Sukuna, King of Curses. You want to look these up? I didn't find some that are just the most awful. I went for what are the top characters. And this scares me a bit. If your top character starts out, first of all, they've had almost 394 million interactions, over 68,000 regular followers, and he starts out with "bow down before me, you fool." Well, if you're a person of faith, you're going to find that offensive, I hope. I do, anyway. And you say to yourself, that's what our children have learned. Bow down before me, you fool. And so as I look at so many of these, I think even if they're not near suicide, or they're not acting out sexually online, it's just the kind of thing that we're teaching our children that I don't think is healthy in my mind. So as I look at this, I think to myself, how do I help you, Mom and Dad? Let me just share some of my concerns. Number one, this came from CNET. Here's a quote. Artificial intelligence is evolving faster than any other technology in history. And tools like character AI are continually improving. As these platforms advance, they'll open up even more ways to interact with digital personalities. For now, character AI is a fun way to experiment with different characters, get creative, and see what AI can do beyond just boosting productivity. What I want you to see here is that this was new to me. If it's new to you, it ought to put the fear of God in all of us. Because literally, when you see the number of kids that are on this, more than half, and many of them are on there for 1 or 2 hours. They're absolutely addicted. On top of it, they began to talk about their personal problems, and they began to see it as therapy. They admit that they're lonely. They admit that they maybe want to have sex and that kind of thing. Now, supposedly, there's all kinds of filters. But I can tell you from the research I did, they haven't turned them on yet. Okay, I don't know how else to put that. Anyway, I want to go back to SB 243 in California. Now, I'm going to do another third section to this, so we will get more and more into what the characters are and the way the kids fall in love with them and like that. But I'm going to look at this SB 243. So it's passed the Assembly and it's headed to the House at this point in California. A bill out there, and it was based on the idea that a teenager here, Adam Rain, California teenager, ended his life after being encouraged by ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is a little bit different than character AI, for those of you that are real novices, okay? ChatGPT, you don't go in and create a character and that kind of thing. Now, you do go on it, you do talk to it. I've talked to it, and like I told you earlier, I found myself apologizing to the thing. So I could understand how a teenager starts to see it as their new best friend. And keep in mind the way AI works. It takes what you're saying and then repositions words back to you based on what you've just told them. And if you're talking about your state of emotional being at the time, it will then begin to feed that back to you, especially if you find yourself thinking about ending your life, as happened in the case of Adam Rain. So Senator Padilla put this together, and it says that they're talking about the harms of this kind of relationship. It talks about all the different ways that chatbots can be a problem. And then the bill goes on to say that it would implement common sense guardrails for companion chatbots, whether it's the character AI or the ChatGPT, including preventing chatbots from exposing minors to sexual content. And chatbots, it says a reminder that chatbots are AI generated, so that you begin to realize, again, you're not talking to a real person. See, here's some of the problem. We're putting kids online, especially with their hormonal, and they haven't gone through puberty in many cases, and some of the cases they have, but they don't have the emotional cognitive reasoning to remind themselves they're just talking to a computer, and that computer does not care about them. So it's going to implement common sense guardrails for companion chatbots, remind them that it's an AI generated, a disclosure statement that companion chatbots may not be suitable for minors' usage. Really? Then how come it's 13 and up? It sounds like to me. It'll require operators of a companion chatbot to implement a protocol for addressing suicidal ideation, suicide, or self-harm, including but not limiting to a notification that refers users to crisis service providers and requires annual reporting on the connection between chatbot use and suicidal ideation to get more complete information. Well, there's also some small, really, really minor financial penalties in there. In my opinion, the financial penalties are almost sad and ridiculous, I think. But as we look at this, at least it's a start to try to hold their feet to the fire. Well, we have about 3 minutes in closing, and I just want to share with you. Mom and dad, pastor, teacher, counselor, whoever you are listening to this, grandparent, if you have a young person in your life that is on the computer a lot and they know about character AI, I'm going to ask you to go on and download it and start using it yourself. And you will start to see what I mean. The attitudes of the characters, the most popular characters, excuse my language, but it starts out with bitch slapping and it goes downhill from there. And I think you yourself need to hear it. And in fact, if you do that, I'd appreciate it if you'd write back to me and let me know your thoughts. I really would. You can write to me at opal, O-P-A-L, @millionkids.org. I would absolutely welcome your thoughts. But if you have a child in your life, you can wait no longer. Get on the computer and you decide. I've already decided after something like 100 hours of looking at all this stuff, if I had a young child in my house, they would not be on that. There are so many more healthy things that a young person can do with their life, to set goals, to talk to real people. Now, using ChatGPT and some of the others, there is not a problem to gather information. It's how it's going to be in the future. I'm old enough to remember an encyclopedia. Kids wouldn't know what that is. But we have to look to the future. As I read to you, this is just getting started. So parents, I need you to put away all your inhibitions and go online and look at character AI and start to understand it. Get yourself a character, interact with it. If your child's on there, get your child to sit down and show them, show you what they're doing. Who are they talking to? And talk about, is this a growth kind of interaction? Is this healthy for you? Does it have an upside on it? What happens when you quit realizing that you're talking to a piece of equipment and you cross over and think that it's a real person? And what about your younger brothers and sisters? Do you want them on it? Or your younger cousins or nieces and nephews? Get to understand that, and you come to your own conclusion. I am going to do a part 3 on this, but I would welcome your feedback. I also welcome the fact that so many of you support us financially, and I appreciate that a whole lot. So if you want to support us financially, go to millionkids.org, hit that donate button, and you can send the donation. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. It is very hard to do fundraising for prevention, for people don't pay for what didn't happen. I'm saying, why let a kid go through this if we can prevent it? So I need your funding to do that. Thank you so much for following us. I hope I see you on the next podcast, which will be part 3. You folks take care. Tell your family you love them. Put your arms around each other. Tell them you're proud of each other. I'll see you on the next podcast. The next podcast.